Good afternoon. My name is Frank Morganthaler, and I'm a Republican candidate for Congress in the 17th Congressional District. Today's press conference, if you'd like to call it that, since once again our friends in the liberal media failed to attend or even called to say they wouldn't be here, but we're going to move forward anyway. So, as I said, today's press conference was called to bring attention to a very serious issue, that being the fact that thousands of Republican, Independents, and Working Families Party voters are about to be disenfranchised by the actions of two self-serving individuals. These two are trying to hijack a congressional election and prevent the voters, who are actually members of these three parties, from exercising their constitutional right to vote in a primary and select a candidate who they decide will best represent their respective party. Some background on this matter. Monday, April 16th was the deadline for congressional candidates to submit their designating petitions containing the appropriate number of signatures to the State Board of Elections. Candidates from around the state and all political parties met this deadline. However, the New York State election law does allow registered voters to file objections against petitions of any candidate they so choose, usually in an attempt to have that candidate's petition or petitions ruled invalid and accordingly have the candidate's name or names removed from the ballot. Well, here in the 17th Congressional District, we have an individual who filed objections against the petitions of a number of candidates, all of whom desired to become the candidate of one of those three political parties mentioned earlier. The individual who filed the objections is Richard F. Hubert of Rye, New York. Now, interestingly enough, Mr. Hubert is not a member of any of the three political parties that he has filed objections against. He is a registered non-party voter. If Mr. Hubert's objections are upheld by the State Board of Elections, some or all of the candidates' names can be removed from the primary ballots of the three parties involved, and the voters of those parties will be deprived of the right to determine who their respective candidate will be. Why would Mr. Hubert take this action? Why would he intentionally attempt to deprive the voters of three parties from choosing their candidate? That is un-American. It goes against everything that our country stands for. One man is placing his own selfish agenda above the rights of thousands of Americans, and one man can very possibly determine the outcome of this election. Mr. Hubert, by his action here, creates a scenario very similar to what occurs in oppressed countries around the world, where one individual makes all the decisions in those countries. Those countries are defined as dictatorships, and there are no free elections in those countries. On the other hand, our nation is a republic, and here the people are supposed to be free to vote and choose their leaders, not to be repressed by the actions of one selfish individual. Initially, it was thought that Mr. Hubert acted alone in his effort. However, that is not the case. The truth was revealed when some very concerned Republican voters who became aware of this situation called Mr. Hubert to ask why he did what he did. Why did he interfere with the internal workings of their party? To the surprise of the callers, they were informed by Mr. Hubert that they should talk to Doug Colty, that their problem is with Mr. Colty. That information would seem to indicate that Mr. Colty is using Mr. Hubert to accomplish his dirty work, while he once again hides behind the scenes. Well, we now call on Mr. Colty to explain why he orchestrated this scheme against his own party. And while this issue impacts three political parties, I would now like to specifically speak about how this issue affects our Republican Party. For those who are not aware, Doug Colty is the Westchester County Republican Committee Chairman and the Westchester County Republican Election Commissioner. As the head of the Republican Party in Westchester County, his main focus should be to endorse solid Republican candidates and to bring about their election. But Mr. Colty seems to have a much different agenda, and his party being victorious does not seem to be his priority. Over the years, his actions involving Republican candidate endorsements, support for Republican campaigns, and his failure to elect Republican candidates have come into question by many, many members of his own party. During the 2010 18th Congressional District election, Mr. Colty initially endorsed a Democrat to run on the Republican line, over the objections of many, many Republicans. That candidate eventually had to step down. However, even after endorsing this candidate, Mr. Colty, again, behind the scenes, sent 14 Republicans out to collect signatures for Nita Lowey, his chosen candidate's opponent. and those petitions are available to be seen or viewed by anyone who so desires. Mr. Colte has never put up a truly credible candidate against Ms. Lowy, and he has worked against the party's candidates. It almost seems that he wants her to win. Obviously, that is not a popular stance for a Republican chairman to take. Now, in 2012, Mr. Colte has once again endorsed a very weak Republican candidate, Joseph Carvin, to run against Ms. Lowy. Mr. Carvin's background and positions would actually make him better qualified to run on the Democratic line than the Republican. And, by the way, the previously mentioned Mr. Hubert is a very, very good friend of Mr. Carvin. Regarding Mr. Carvin, he only returned to the United States in 2002 after living abroad for many, many years. In a move of political expedience, he changed his voter registration from an independent, non-party voter to the Republican Party in 2005 so that he could run for office on an established political line. He voted for President Obama in 2008. He is pro-abortion. His wife made 2 contributions to the Obama re-election fund, and he has promoted the Model American Community Project in Rye, a project that has as an ultimate goal that of creating a utopic community, an attainable utopia, not very Republican. While Mr. Carvin is entitled to support any candidate he so chooses and support any initiative he wants, none of his actions or positions reflect a Republican philosophy. Once again, Mr. Colte has chosen a candidate who does not fit the Republican mold and will have no chance of winning in the general election in November. Why keep picking losers, Mr. Colte? Mr. Colte, you owe the rank and file of this party an honest explanation of your conduct. In conclusion, I call upon all of my fellow Republicans to contact Mr. Colte and demand that he immediately cease from moving forward any further with the objection process. Let the members of this party choose the individual that they think will best represent their party in an open primary. I also call on the members of the Independence Party and the Working Families Party to stand united with we Republicans here today in the effort to protect all of our candidates and keep them on the ballot. Let the voters vote, and may the best man or woman win. I thank everyone who attended this event today. God bless you all. God bless our troops. And most of all, God bless our great nation. Thank you.